I can't believe it's been almost a year since my first video. Talk about how I got into the fandom, maybe some furry gaming topics, and perhaps even do a bit of cooking. Why did it take me so long to get to the gaming part? Anyway, hello there everyone, my name is Sebastian, and it's time for another cup of Sebespresso! Today, I decided to finally talk about something game related. Well, sort of. So, I think this is pretty obvious, but gaming is quite influential when it comes to people finding the furry fandom. There are a lot of games out there that feature anthropomorphic characters, and some people in the fandom even have a persona that's a species from a video game. And this is one of those videos where I go into a bit of detail about what games essentially led me down the path of becoming a furry. Games that pretty much helped shape the fuzzball you now see before you, as well as explain things I like about the games in case you've never played any of them before. Some of them you probably have, while others you may not have even heard of. So with that, here are 5 games, well, game series for some of these, that helped me realize I'm a furry. So, confession time. Until I was almost 12 years old, I was predominantly a Nintendo kid. It wasn't until Christmas 2001 that I got my first non-Nintendo console, the PlayStation 2. Yeah, I never had a PS1, so I didn't grow up with games like Crash Bandicoot or Spyro. Instead, the PlayStation series I ended up growing up with was Sly Cooper. For those of you who haven't played these games before, Sly Cooper is a series of stealth games where you play as, well, Sly Cooper, a raccoon thief who comes from a long line of master thieves hoping to continue his family's tradition of, well, thievery, all the while avoiding being arrested by the lovely yet tenacious Carmelita Fox.
Blast it, Sly! Why run? Why not face me like a real man?
Who, admittedly, was one of my biggest crushes as a teenager. Anyway, the games themselves, as I've said, are stealth games, each with a pretty interesting story to them. Aside from Thieves in Time, but we won't go there. For example, the first game is about Sly wishing to avenge his father by stealing back the pages of his family's book of thieving secrets, the Thievius Raccoonus. And of course, the games have interesting characters to go along with them, some of which unexpectedly show up in more than one game. I think one of the reasons Sly Cooper resonated with me was because of the fact that there weren't really any video game characters I outright resonated with growing up. Sly Cooper was the first one. It took a thieving raccoon for me to look at a character in a video game and go, huh, he's actually kinda cool. But to be honest, a lot of the characters in the Sly Cooper series are kinda cool. Even Dimitri, in his own unique way.
You think you can swing the bat? Show your bling and let me shine you.
But in any case, the fact that there were so many characters I liked from a game with an all-anthropomorphic cast was pretty much what started to make me realize how unique anthropomorphic characters are in general. And even though it's not the game series I played first on this list, it's the game series that first piqued my interest in anthropomorphic characters outright. And the games themselves are actually really fun and enjoyable, whether you're crawling along the side of a train, fighting pirates on the open sea, or running from a giant snake. Okay, the games do get a bit ridiculous, but the good kind of ridiculous. And they're all reasons why Sly Cooper is one of my favorite video game series of all time. Except for Thieves in Time. The fact that it left off where it did so the developers could work on Sonic Boom of all things? Sanzaru, ya done goofed. Ah, hello childhood, my old friend. Banjo-Kazooie was a game that always put a smile on my face, as well as Banjo-Tooie. We won't go into detail beyond that game though. Seriously, what is it with me liking game series that take a nosedive near the end? But let's not focus on that. Banjo-Kazooie is awesome. In the first game, an evil witch by the name of Gruntilda kidnaps Banjo's sister Tootie because she's tired of her body being so 3D. And Banjo sets out with his friend Kazooie to rescue her, traveling to various worlds in order to collect golden jigsaw pieces known as Jiggies along the way to travel further into Gruntilda's lair. As for the games themselves, they're what we call collectathons, because there are a ton of things you can collect in this game through various means. Though sometimes you gotta wonder if you really should collect something. One thing I like about the games, the first two anyway, are their atmosphere. The various worlds you travel to are really interesting, with unique puzzles that range from, I could do this in my sleep, to, okay, that was a little bit of a challenge, to, oh, you gotta be kidding me! I'll admit, the first game is a bit on the short and easy side, but the second game definitely goes up in length, difficulty, and polish. And of course, the majority of the game's characters are anthropomorphic, or some form of talking animal character. Another thing I like about the games is how they never take themselves too seriously, or even remotely seriously. Sometimes it's good to have a game that's just really laid back and carefree, and it's probably one of the reasons why I love these games so much. They're witty, they're charming, and they're just all around fun to play. Even though it took me, like, 5 years to beat Banjo-Kazooie. Okay, look, I know I just said this game was on the short and easy side, and then went, by the way, it took me 5 years to beat it, but cut me some slack. I couldn't figure out how to get to Rusty Bucket Bay at the time, and had to rely on video rental stores to play the game for a long time. Back when they were still a thing. Oh, and because of this, I know that Clanker is a good metal shark that just wants some fresh air and to stay in one piece, but I didn't know that he was friendly at first. I was 10 years old at the time. The only thing I thought was teeth! Okay, hear me out on this one. Pokemon isn't technically a furry series, but looking at the various designs of Pokemon, coupled with the fact that you do play as the Pokemon themselves in the Mystery Dungeon games, it's not surprising to see how popular Pokemon is among the furry fandom. I mean, think about it for a moment. Some Pokemon, such as Lucario, Blaziken, Mewtwo, Lucario, Incineroar, and Inteleon, that I mentioned Lucario by the way, are pretty much already anthropomorphic. But even the non-anthropomorphic Pokemon end up becoming so popular that they end up becoming anthropomorphized. Whether that Pokemon is Eevee, Lugia, or even frickin' Scolipede. I know the idea of certain Pokemon being anthropomorphized may sound weird to some of you, but let's be honest here. Pokemon in general are pretty weird. Just going off of Pokedex entries, we have a Pokemon that hugs people to death, a Pokemon that's pretty much a Skull Kid, a Pokemon that is a literal apocalypse, a Pokemon that people use the droppings of to keep warm, Nintendo just why? And a Pokemon who literally runs a reverse harem. How many Salandits do you think she got in there? 40? 100? 621? What about how Pokemon assisted me in my own journey towards finding the fandom? Well, nowadays, I have a pretty big obsession with reptiles, and especially dragons. Not like I haven't made that abundantly clear before. And looking back at all the Pokemon games I've played, it may have to do with most of the Pokemon I used being predominantly scaly, and the type of Pokemon that I used the most were dragon types. Heck, even the starter Pokemon I chose were mostly reptiles, even though in Gen 1, that was pretty much the only choice. But in any case, considering this with the fact that my first Sona was actually a dragon, albeit a very badly drawn one in MS Paint, give me a break, this was over 12 years ago. Perhaps Pokemon helped bring out this desire of becoming a dragon myself. So I'm pretty sure this is obvious, but Pokemon are just plain awesome and have really cool designs. Well, most of them do. And now we come to what is arguably the furriest game on this list. And also by far the most obscure game on this list, especially considering how freaking hard it is to even get this game nowadays. But in any case, Solatorobo Red the Hunter is one of my personal favorite games of all time. In Solatorobo, you play as Red, an anthropomorphic dog known as a Kainainu, who are one of the two main humanoid species in this game. The other being known as the Feline Echo, who are an anthropomorphic catfolk. The game itself takes place in a somewhat futuristic world consisting of floating islands known as the Shepherd Republic. And apparently, in the Shepherd Republic, French is the dominant language. That's right, people. In the future, everyone is going to be French and furry. Calling it now. Kidding aside, I really enjoyed playing through this game. It's pretty laid back and is the kind of game where the story is definitely the main focus. It has a ton of witty and humorous dialogue, which brings out so much personality in the game's cast of characters. Though the game does have one common criticism, that the game itself is somewhat too easy. And yeah, it is a bit on the easy side as far as gameplay is concerned, but for me, that didn't take away from me enjoying the game for what it is. That, and it's good to take a break, relax, and play something on the easy side for a change. Especially if you were like me at the time and coming off a game like this that completely beat the crap out of you. Also, for those of you who don't know, Sola Turobo is actually the second game in what's known as the Little Tail Bronx series. The first being Tail Concerto for the PS1, which I haven't played, admittedly. So between its story as well as its memorable cast of characters, it's definitely worth a playthrough if you ever get the chance, especially considering how captivating the story actually is. It's a shame that this game never got an anime because it has the makings of one for sure. But what about this game made me realize I'm a furry? Well, just look at it. Hey, I'm finally awake. And apparently I have a tail. Okay, but seriously, I know that everyone knows about this game. Everyone has talked about this game. Everyone has played this game on several different consoles. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim is by no means a perfect game, but this is a game that holds a fair bit of nostalgia for me. Back in late 2011, I was going through a bit of a rough patch, and Skyrim helped keep my mind at ease. But what exactly got me interested in playing this game in the first place? Right here! On the character selection screen. At a time where I was searching for more games where you could play as anthropomorphic characters, and not finding anything that piqued my interest, there I was, just watching YouTube videos, when all of a sudden, whoa! That's a lizard. That's a friggin' lizard. So at that point, I immediately went out and bought a copy of Skyrim just so I could play as an Argonian, because I had been going through a bit of a scaly phase and had been trying to find games where you play as a reptile. Like I said, I was going through a phase. And kinda still am. I ended up delving further into Elder Scrolls lore just out of sheer curiosity, looking up whatever I could about Argonians, and then discovering the previous two Elder Scrolls games in the series, Morrowind and Oblivion. And at that point, the Elder Scrolls had become one of my new favorite game series. Like what I said when talking about Pokemon, the Elder Scrolls games aren't an outright furry series. Unless you're talking about ESO's Elsewhere expansion.
Trade with Khajiit?
But having playable race options besides the usual RPG options is a breath of fresh air in my opinion, especially since there aren't many options for playing as a reptile as far as RPGs go. Or MMOs for that matter. I'm looking at you, World of Warcraft. So yeah, it has its flaws, but overall, Skyrim is a game that I still enjoy to this day, and will always be that game where I finally got to play as a lizard. Because, if I haven't made it clear already, reptiles are awesome! And yet I still ended up with a ton of floof instead of scales. Don't ask me why, it just works. And that's about it. Those are the 5 video game series that pretty much inspired me to eventually become this. If you're watching this and you consider yourself to be a furry, if a game inspired you to join the fandom, feel free to let me know which one in the comments. Also, I apologize for this video being late. I mean, really late. But hopefully, getting this uploaded is a sign that I can start uploading videos more often. I hope. But anyway, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you back here next time for another cup of Sebi Espresso. See you next time!